Welcome back. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive at a time when India is on the cusp of making history. Well, going by the numbers which are coming in, Draupadi Murmu may just become soon the first woman tribal president of India. I'm Meghna Deka. We'll take you ahead with the latest updates, but here are the headlines. NDA's Draupadi Murmu corners about several votes in her first two rounds of counting. In fact, she has more than doubled her lead over Yashwant Sinha for the presidential polls. And as you can see, early celebrations have already begun at Murmu's residence in Odisha and tribal areas across Bengal, Jharkhand, Maharashtra, amongst others, in anticipation of a historic win. Mamata Banerjee and a party is going to abstain from the vice president's poll, dealing a massive blow to a united opposition front against NDA's candidate Jagdeep Dhankar. Now, Alva's chances becoming bleaker.
गांधी परिवार और कांग्रेस पार्टी की तासीर समझने में नरेंद्र मोदी और अमित शाह को कई जन्म लेने पड़ जाएंगे.
Well, Congress hits the streets against Enforcement Directorate's questioning of Sonia Gandhi in the National Herald case. They claim that the party's first family won't bow to alleged harassment by the Modi-Shah government-controlled agencies. BJP says Congress now stands for a single parivar. Yashwant Sinha suggests that Enforcement Directorate shouldn't have summoned Sonia Gandhi but visited her at her home instead. Loyalist Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary meanwhile calls the ED an idiot. BJP says that Congress is defaming institutions. Congress workers rely on arson, road and rail blockade template for protests. 2 vehicles have been torched in Karnataka. Fire brigade ambulances were also stalled in Hyderabad. Pakistani national Rizwan Ashraf's interrogation reveals Pak-based Islamic radical terrorist Tehreek-e-Labaik's mission to kill Nupur Sharma. Details exclusive on Times Now. Eyeing power in Gujarat, Kejriwal promises 24-hour free power and waiver of dues pending before December 2021. Claims only AAP knows the magical formula. Supreme Court refuses to hear a plea for worship of purported shivling at the Gyanvapi complex. Also refuses Masjid Said's plea to stop hearing in the lower court or junk the survey commissioner's report. A Mathura court decides to hear Muslim side's plea that Hindu side's claim on Eidgah Mosque as part of the Krishna Janmabhoomi is not even maintainable under the Places of Worship Act. Well, in the race to the Raisina, is India on the cusp of making history with the first ever woman tribal leader? Well, going by the latest numbers, well, we are going to ask you to draw the conclusions yourself. So let's get you the numbers on your screens. You have them. You have the opposition-backed candidate, Yashwant Sinha. He gets 329 out of 1,138 MLAs in 10 states, and the vote value of Yashwant Sinha now goes to about 44,276. Murmu, on the other hand, has managed to bag 809 votes, which is of the value of 1,05,299. So there you have it. The numbers are there on your screens. And you will now wait and see the way that India has been waiting to embrace this. Let me go across to Aishwarya, who's joining us live from Murmu's residence. There's Sabyasachi. He'll be joining us from Draupadi Murmu's hometown, her own village, which is Rairangpur. There's also Mohit Bhatt joining us from the BJP headquarters. But first, Aishwarya, I'll be coming over to you. Draupadi Murmu's is still waiting for the final numbers and the final count to be announced. However, right behind you, we can see already the preparations have begun for receiving none other than even the Prime Minister, I believe, when she wins.
हमारे साथ मंच पे हैं, मैं उनका बहुत-बहुत अभिनंदन स्वागत करता हूं. certainly BJP is calling it as a Vijay Divas, and there have been massive celebrations all across the country, just not in Odisha but also in the national capital as well. And where right now I am is Draupadi Murmu's temporary residence. This is for Uma Shankar Lane, and there is that particular stage where Draupadi Murmu will be sitting, just after the announcement. We have been told that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with Home Minister Amit Shah, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, and other top ministers will be coming here at Draupadi Murmu's temporary residence, and there will be a felicitation program that will be held. But all the other part of this residence is all decked up with bouquets and flowers, and sweets are being distributed, just because Draupadi Murmu is currently leading as far as the contest with Yashwant Sinha is concerned, and majority of votes is going into her favor, and that's why perhaps BJP believes that Draupadi Murmu will be winning this contest with the thumping majority. Just not top BJP ministers, but also G. Kishan Reddy and C.T. Ravi and Dharmendra Pradhan, all are here to monitor and to oversee the preparations that are over here. But certainly, as far as the sequence of events are concerned, first after the results, the Chief Election Commissioner will come over here, and he will be handing over the certificate to Draupadi Murmu of her win. Soon after that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other top leaders will be coming here, and they will be felicitating Draupadi Murmu. And certainly, as BJP and the NDA believes that Draupadi Murmu will be India's 15th President of India and first woman tribal President of the nation.
Let me go across to Neelashish. Rairangpur, of course, you've been getting us live visuals from there where they've already made the preparations. But it's a huge, momentous occasion for them, isn't it? Not only to have a face from their own tribal community to represent not just them, but the whole of India now. Neelashish, if you can hear me?
Well, yes, it is extremely loud here near Pandit Pant Marg. I'm not sure I heard your question right, but let me show you the mood around this area. If I can ask my video journalist to pan and show you the entire area. There are tricolors being waved till the eye goes. There are posters of Draupadi Murmu. The mood is very, very celebratory at this point. And of course, the anticipation for her to be declared as president. At this point, you can see there's Meenakshi Lekhi on stage, there's Delhi State President Adesh Gupta on stage, there are other Delhi ministers who are also on the stage at this point. We spoke to them, they said that this is a moment of celebration, this shows the oneness of India, the significance of this moment cannot be downplayed, and as you can see, there are people, BJP workers in large numbers here. If I can ask my video journalist to pan and show you. The entire road here of Pandit Pant Marg is really colored in saffron white and green. At this point, the mood is very, very celebratory. After the addresses here by the BJP leaders, a march will begin. They will begin a walk from here towards Ashoka Road, then towards the Rail Bhavan, and finally culminate at Rajpath. Well, that is the plan as of now. We will wait and see how this crowd then goes on their celebratory march. They're still waiting for Draupadi Murmu to be declared president formally, and they're very, very excited and anticipating that moment with bated breath.
It will be very interesting when that moment comes, when we have the final results. But let me go back across to Aishwarya. He's been getting us the live visuals as well. But before that, a quick word from Mohit Bhatt as well. Mohit, you joining us from outside the BJP headquarters. It's interesting to see if Draupadi Murmu does win by the kind of margins that we are already seeing coming in. Goes to show not just how acceptable she is to all the people who voted, but also BJP's dominance, isn't it? Mohit, can you hear me? Well, it seems like there's a bit of a problem. Let me go back across to Aishwarya. Aishwarya, I was telling you about it's not just about the acceptance of Draupadi Murmu, but also the fact that BJP's dominance is stamped over this kind of a victory and the victory margins that we are expecting.
Well, that's right, and that's what the BJP had.
Well, we'll just come back to you, but also joining us now on the show, Jay Panda, the National Vice President of the BJP, also an MP. Thank you so much, Mr. Panda, for joining us. What is it going to signify if Draupadi Murmu, going by the numbers which are coming in right now, wins, not just wins, but wins with a massive margin?
Well, the counting shows that Draupadi Murmu ji has a huge unassailable lead, and she is winning with a landslide margin. This is a very historic election because for the first time we have a tribal and a tribal woman as president. This is a message for the world. This is aspirational India. Just like the Prime Minister himself, Draupadi Murmu ji herself has also come from very humble backgrounds. And it's not just symbolism. She has really worked hard and created an image for herself. She was best legislator in the Odisha Assembly. She held not any ministries, but she held important ministries like commerce and transportation, and established a reputation for non-corrupt and effective administration. She was the first woman governor of Jharkhand. So this is a woman of substance, and she has earned the right to be the first citizen of India.
And the fact that she's also an educator, and I feel that that's very important, that she spent a lot of time educating and molding what is going to be eventually the future of India. Is that one of the reasons why we've seen these celebrations and spontaneous celebrations in some of the cases in several of the tribal belts, and that is not just restricted to Odisha, but across the nation?
In fact, not just Odisha, not just Assam, where I am today, I have been participating in tumultuous celebrations with thousands of people gathering here in Guwahati and all across Assam in the tea gardens, which is full of tribal citizens of India. And by the way, this is the same thing and it's not just our tribal society. In Delhi, in Mumbai, all across the country, every state, every district, there is an outpouring of joy and affection because, people see in this much more than symbolism. They see that she has earned it, and as you rightly said, her first job was as a teacher. Then she has also worked at in government at the entry levels, and she knows what citizens have to face every day. And so this representation of aspirational India is, I think, what has created the enthusiasm across all sections of society, and the outpouring of love and emotions is just phenomenal.
But Jay Panda, interestingly, already you have the Congress appealing against this, and they have said that BJP has bribed and they have exerted their influence on the MLAs, specifically in the case of Karnataka MLAs. They've made this charge, saying that BJP has flexed its muscle to push its NDA candidate through in this race. What would you like to say to that?
I think this is just the latest example of the Congress's pathetic victimhood narrative, which is not working. Their sense of entitlement. Look at today when they are creating havoc on the streets of Delhi, just because the ED has the temerity to question their leaders, where the court has also found prima facie evidence and given them bail. Contrast that to Prime Minister Modi, who submitted himself to authorities, even as he kept winning at district court, at high court and Supreme Court. So that's Congress. The reality is, in the presidential election, there is no party line vote. It's not by a whip. People vote on their conscience. So I asked the Congress, what about the Congress senior MLA in Odisha, Muhammad Mukim, who has openly defied the Congress High Command and voted, no allegations of any inducement. Openly he has said that this is such an inspirational choice of Draupadi Murmu ji that he feels compelled to vote for her. So how do they explain that?
But cross-voting, it does seem that it has happened. Going by the numbers which are already coming up, it does seem that there would have been quite an extent of cross-voting in favor of your candidate.
Let me explain again that there is no issue of cross-voting here. This is not like a typical parliamentary vote where there is a whip and and members have to follow. This is a conscience vote. And, you know, look, cross-voting is when an MP or MLA defies their leadership, as I've given the example of the Odisha Congress MLA. But what about so many opposition members, opposition parties of the UPA, you know, like JMM, like YSRCP, like TDP,
yes,
like TDP, like BJD. These are not parties with the BJP, but they have officially announced that they're supporting Draupadi Murmu ji because she's such an inspirational choice for president. So it's a very poor and weak argument to say that
Mr. Panda, of course, this seems to be one of the perfect choices by the NDA, but does it also stamp BJP's dominance in this case?
Look, the BJP is the world's largest party for a reason, because of the sacrifice of 4 generations of leaders and party workers who have struggled for this. And, you know, it has been Prime Minister Modi's stated effort to ensure that every section of society gets uplifted. The way he has focused on the Northeast, visiting the Northeast more times than all his predecessors. The way he has focused on different sections of society. So it is completely in line with our efforts and Prime Minister Modi's vision that all sections of society must throw up leadership for India. And it was way overdue, far overdue, that a member of tribal India should have headed the country as its first citizen. And it's a shame that those who were in government for many decades never thought of this, that it waited for a BJP NDA government. She's an NDA candidate, and it waited for somebody like Prime Minister Modi to promote such an idea. And the reality is that this is an idea that all of India endorses.
Well, the Congress, the opposition already seems to be in a complete disarray, and now this time around, even over the vice presidential polls which are coming up with the TMC saying they're going to boycott it. But Jay Panda, thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us. As Jay Panda said, this is not a vote on politics. This is a vote for conscience.